Co-living is like a little apartment community, basically. You're just leasing out the house by the bedroom. With one house, you could have 10 tenants. The faster you scale that, the more tenants you deal with, and you're dealing with like tenant ecosystems, and you become kind of like the house therapist, the house mediator. So that's what makes scaling that difficult.
We grew within about a year to about 100 properties. It was really cool to a certain extent, but we ended up just hating our lives. We had all these properties. We had never started a business before, so we had no real systems, no understanding of how that's built. We weren't hiring people because we didn't really know how to do that or like bring people on. It was a mess.
What's going on, STR Nation? This is your host and brother from another mother, Manuel Pani here. All by myself today, as Riles is in the mountains with his family on his way back, actually. But wanted to give him some time to enjoy the rest of the time with his family. And today I had the pleasure of having like Anthony Carter and Jeremy Courtney on the show. They had a fascinating journey. They started their real estate career on the property management side. Then they transitioned to some co-living spaces. And then from there, they scaled the Airbnb business. They scaled from 0 to 100 property within a year. Realized it was a bit of a mess, cut it down to 60 properties, and then really figured out how to scale and grow from there. And now they have over 80 properties, a boutique hotel. So just a fascinating story. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from the show was that as they grew and started implementing EOS, which we talk about a lot, actually EOS, they realized that their team was craving from them to build actual proper building structure, org charts, organizational structure, and to really stop being these cool, chill, laid back bosses and to really create the structure to help the team thrive and grow. And that was such a great reminder. So we talked about that. We talked about how mindset wise, they got over that switch, right? Of actually becoming more business owners as well. Without further ado, I welcome Blake and his partner, Jeremy, onto the show.
Good day, sir.
I'm excited to have you guys on the show. Your story is quite amazing. You started from co-living, which is not something that I've heard a lot of people kind of come out of. And so I would love for you guys to tell our listeners kind of the journey, the story, and how you guys now got to managing 80 plus properties, a boutique hotel, a couple single family homes. So it's been from co-living to 80 properties plus a boutique hotel. It's been a journey. So give us a little rundown.
Yeah, I'll kind of start and give you a quick bit of the story and how we got to where we are now. Jeremy and I basically have been in real estate since we left high school. Jeremy was at Target for a bit, but we weren't always considered that. But yeah, so my mom actually had a real estate business when I was young, and just by proxy of being around it, learned all about negotiations and financing and construction and dealing with contractors and just all the stuff that you get to deal with. They were selling mobile homes and flipping houses, and so I got to just be around that. It was a really cool time. And then, long story short, after the 2008 housing crisis, they essentially lost that business, but I still got all the beautiful knowledge that came from it. Did not go to college. I was actually denied from every college I applied to. Jeremy was homeschooled, and he didn't go to college either, and
Didn't even apply.
And then I got right into property management at the same time. Like, we met right after high school, and at the same time he was working at Target. Eventually, like a year and a half later, he started working in property management as well. And we both really grew in that space. Jeremy ended up being like a regional manager for student housing, and I was the national leasing manager for a company called CWS Apartment Homes. And basically, I would just go around and put out fires or fix problems or sit at a desk because no one else was there, whatever. I was like their errand boy, but it was cool to see like a really high functioning real estate company. And Jeremy learned a ton. Obviously, he was at a pretty high level in his company, and we both always knew we wanted to work for ourselves. We both got into investing like pretty small fairly early on. Did like some small flips, bought some like really cheap land for cash, like nothing really big, but we're always like bigger pockets fans and wanted to like really get into the business, just didn't really know how. And then COVID hit, which I feel like it's a story for a lot of people nowadays. COVID hit and it changed things. And we couldn't really do what we do or what we did from home. So we were basically getting paid our full-time salary to like check emails. That's around the time that I got my real estate license and was working for after that I was working for a local property management company that was helping me like learn how to sell real estate at the same time. Like I was helping with their PM side and they were helping me if I wanted to become like a regular real estate agent basically. And basically someone called in one day and said, "Hey, I have these 3 houses that I'm renting out by the room. Is that something that you guys would manage?" And I was like, "Sure, we'll do that." And I go to the owner of the company and she's like, "Hell no. We're absolutely not doing anything with that. I want no part of that." And 6 weeks later, the guy calls me directly and he's like, "Hey, will you just help me out on the side? Like I have no clue what I'm doing." And Jeremy was in student housing, and so he had some knowledge about how to manage rentals by the room. So I was like, "Sure, we'll do this." Like we needed the money and charged him like $500 to manage 3 different houses, all rented out by the room. It was like 18 rooms for like $500. It was crazy. And that's how we learned all about the world of co-living and started that business. We were the only people doing co-living in Austin at the time, so it just grew really fast, just organically. I think we got to like 40 homes pretty quickly. At the same time, we had a client that was doing short-term rentals, and we were basically broke, still working jobs at the time. And he's like, would you guys manage this short-term rental? And we were like, "Sure, we'll do that." And like he asked how much we charge, and I just Googled on my phone, how much do Airbnb management companies charge? Told him the cheapest price I saw just so we could land it, and got our first management client from that. And the short-term rentals eventually is what really took off for us, because we started at the time what was the only meetup group specifically for short-term rentals in Austin. And we would have 30, 50, 70 people would come to these short-term rentals. And this was like right when short-term rentals were hot. Like people were all over it at the beginning of COVID, and we were bringing people together. We grew a really big Facebook group that has like 9,000 members now about Austin short-term rentals. And we just grew really fast in that. And that's what we ultimately decided was what we wanted to focus on. We eventually sold off the co-living business and focused solely on short-term rentals. Through this entire process, we've been able to be a part of the acquisition of a boutique hotel, and we own some single-family rentals. We still own some cheap land, and we now manage over 80 listings in and around the Austin area. And we have a real estate sales team that focuses just on short-term rentals. I mean, one of the things that we've started doing too, because we have so many people that come to us, usually just from our social media, that are looking to take advantage of the STR tax loophole. And we've been helping a lot of people underwrite and find short-term rental deals, primarily in Texas, which is where we're located, but we've started doing that nationally as well, which has been kind of a fun process. So that's what we do: investing, managing. We do sales and a little bit of consulting too. So yeah. And I should add, Jeremy runs our management company and I run the sales team. So that's generally how we operate.
That's amazing, man. Jeremy, I would love to hear from you in terms of like, if somebody was listening to this and for some reason they're like, "Dude, that co-living thing sounds kind of interesting." Give us some like a little rundown in your experience of like a survival guide to starting a co-living space. And would you do it again, or would you tell everybody absolutely not? Just do short-term rentals.
That's a good question. I think in a different life, I would maybe do it again. Co-living is like a little apartment community, basically. So, you're just leasing out the house by the bedroom. Kind of how we ran it was we would lightly furnish the house. We just like kitchen supplies, a dining table, a couch, and then we would find like what we called our anchor tenant. And so it usually ended up being the tenant who had the like the primary bedroom. And then we would kind of not build the house around them, but we would have them meet all of the new tenants that were touring to live there and kind of have them feel them out. And we found that to be super successful. But yeah, it was a fun business to build. You are, just with one house, you could have 10 tenants. So the faster you scale that, the more tenants you deal with, and you're dealing with like tenant ecosystems, and you become kind of like the house therapist, the house like mediator. So that's what makes scaling that difficult. But yeah, I think in another life I'd do it again.
That's hilarious.
It's definitely something you had to be focused on. Like we were doing short-term rentals and co-living, and we just preferred the short-term rentals. But there are plenty of people that have a lot of success in co-living. It's just what we decided to focus on.
We were doing short-term rentals, co-living, while we both still had like our W-2s.
It was crazy. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
That sounds like a lot. And I'm sure all those apartment therapist kind of skills you now translate to your owner management therapy skills, because in a way, you're still doing some level of therapy. Last question on this co-living rest I find absolutely fascinating is that how did you identify a good anchor tenant? So what's the psychology, or was it a vibe? Was it a conversation? Was it a questionnaire? Was it like, let me see, like, how do you know?
So when we first started, it was definitely more so like on vibes for sure. We were advertising pretty much primarily on Facebook Marketplace. And so typically when we would launch a new house, the first room that gets leased is typically the primary because it has, it's the largest room, has an ensuite, things like that. And so when we started, it was going on pretty much just like feeling them out when we would meet them there. Obviously, we would have them fill out an application and qualify. But as we evolved in that business, we had like a Google questionnaire that we would send them that, asked like your hobbies, what do you do for work? And so we would the houses would be built around like contractors, or this house is kind of built around servers, or this house is built around students, or like the tech industry and things like that. But yeah, so it started off kind of on vibes and kind of evolved to like a more legitimate questionnaire and things like that.
Got it. That makes sense. So now switching gears from having the real estate meetup, which is something genius. We talk about that on the show often. First of all, do you still have it? Are you still running it? You are? Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
And then give me kind of like the timeline. So when you started the meetup, how many properties you had? And then where did you see, was there a gradual kind of growth? Was it kind of more of one of those like hockey stick moments, like 5, 6, 25, 35, 80, or give us that.
Yeah, that's a cool story. So basically, we started with one, slowly grew to like 3 or 4 over a course of maybe a few months, and then we started that meetup, and also started posting on social media, and we grew within about a year to about 100 properties after we really focused on like the social media side of things and running those meetups and the Facebook group. We grew rather quickly. We just became known as the short-term rental people in Austin, like the guys that do that. And so we got all these like real estate agent referrals and long-term rental management referrals. People just knew our name from being online. That first initial jump in that first year, it was really cool and it was fun to a certain extent, but we ended up just hating our lives. We had all these properties and we had never started a business before, so we had no real systems, no understanding of how that's built. We weren't hiring people because we didn't really know how to do that or like bring people on. It was a mess, and I like to be honest, like we were pretty miserable in our business, and we weren't really making that much money at the end of the day. Had a bunch of crap properties with crap owners. And so we ended up making a decision about 6 months after we hit 100. I should say like 98. It wasn't quite 100, but we ended up deciding to cut away a lot of our properties. And so we actually got rid of several owners and properties that just didn't serve us, that weren't profitable. What we looked at was like, how much is our actual overhead per property? And if the property is not at least making us X amount of profit after our overhead costs, it's not worth it. And also, if the owner is a pain in our butt, it's not worth it. Because what I tell people all the time is like, one of the biggest drags in this business is not going to be the maintenance. It's not going to be the guest communications. A lot of times it's the owner relationships that will become a really big drag in your life. And we didn't do a good job at making sure that the right owners were with us and that we were the right properties. And so anyways, we cut down to like 60. So we cut down to 60, cleaned up our mess, got really dialed in, brought in a EOS implementer who just saved our lives. I mean, she's a godsend. And for anyone going through, I think, like operational hardship, I'll say, implementing EOS for us was just a huge, just game changer. And so we cleaned up our mess, and then over the last year, it's been a big focus for us to grow again. We spent probably about 18 to 24 months maybe not really focusing on growth, not doing a lot of outward marketing. We were still running the events, but we just really focused on dialing in our operations. And now over the last year, we've been focusing on scaling again, but doing it the right way this time.
I love that. So for people that don't know what EOS is, give us a little rundown and what was so beneficial. And I would love to hear from both of you, right? Like, what did Blake love about EOS and what did Jeremy love? Because I have a feeling you guys have very different kind of roles and personalities.
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear what each one of you kind of took away and what benefit did it give to the actual business as well.
Jeremy?
Yeah, so EOS, it stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's just like a framework of how you run your business, and it just helps you put on paper the structure of your business, right? So you build an org chart, you get everybody in your leadership team on your business like bought in, everybody has a seat, and I mean, that alone is super helpful because you don't have like 3 people trying to sit in the same seat or like trying to wear the same hat. And it really helps you track. So it helps you track KPIs a lot. So we have a weekly meeting. It's called like your level 10 meeting for the leadership team. And that's where you go over everything from your KPIs to issues that are happening in the business right now, both short-term and long-term. And then it helps you identify rocks, which are like your quarterly goals. And a quarterly goal is assigned to each person on the leadership team. And then there's milestones that you obviously hit to achieve those goals. And so you're going in there weekly, like being on track or making sure that you're on track. And what I think has been the most beneficial for us, aside from the weekly meetings, is our entire leadership team is now bought in to like the same vision. I think that prior to EOS, we all kind of had a different vision for where we were going. They kind of aligned, but kind of didn't. And so I would say we're all pretty bought in and aligned now, which has been great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll add to like one of the really cool things with EOS is the rocks that Jerry mentioned. And it's pretty powerful when you have everybody on your team committed to a large quarterly goal that you hold them accountable to every single week. It can be pretty powerful for the progress in your business. And that has been really pivotal for us and allowed us to like really set big goals and put things in place that make like actual differences in our business, whether it's operationally or growth. And it also helps our team understand how to set goals and allows us as the leaders of the company to hold them accountable to those goals. So they set the goal and we're able to kind of check in with them every single week. And anyways, we've been doing EOS now for a while. And when we're all hitting our quarterly goals, like the progress that you can make in a year, I think is pretty massive.
And it makes it really easy to identify when something isn't working or like when something's broken, what it is and how to fix it, because every part of your business is so measured that you can kind of see, like we can be in our weekly meeting and look at the scorecard, which is our KPIs over the past, quarter, and see what's trending down or what's trending up. And you can kind of see like what needs to be fixed and like attack versus before we would have a problem and be like, I don't know what's causing this. So that's been great.
Yeah, I love that. So if somebody is listening and it's hearing this story, it's like, oh, that sounds awesome. Like we should do that as well. What would you tell them was the most important lesson that you guys have learned in implementing and maintaining EOS?
You have to be committed to it. If you do EOS lukewarm, you're not full, like if you're not fully in it and doing everything that the system says you should, you're not going to get the results that are possible. And also dialing in your scorecard is very important, like the KPIs that you track. One of the things that I love to tell other short-term rental operators that has been really helpful for us in our business to be able to clean up things, guest experience primarily, is one of the things that we do in our level 10 meetings is we go over every issue that happened in the previous week and through the weekend, every issue that a guest reported, and we assign a task or like to do and who's responsible for each task to make sure that that guest issue gets resolved. We have a system for like tracking work orders, but that's specifically like who is responsible for making sure this happens. And that's been really helpful to make sure that like issues don't stack up and become bigger issues later. And also make sure that we're communicating with owners if we have to get things approved, or we're communicating with vendors if we need bids on things. And we do that weekly, and that's been massively helpful.
Love it. So going from not really having a business, not really having a system, to EOS and being religious with EOS, what I find and what I remember from my own journey with EOS Traction, which is the book where EOS comes from, right, is at the beginning that sitting all together and sharing the vision and making the team kind of feel and run on the same page can feel a little bit hard. It's a little bit like you're kind of like awkward at it, right? Because you're kind of feeling like you're in this general role and you're like motivating the troops, and sometimes you have no fucking clue what you want to do either, right? So you're like, I feel like a bit of a fraud in the moment. It's a little bit hard for me to do. And so give us what the journey was like, or maybe that journey for you guys wasn't like mine, but that was my experience with it. And some of the things that you guys worked on within yourself to really help you elevate yourself as the leaders that now follow EOS as religiously as it sounds like you do.
Jeremy?
Yeah, you go first.
Man, it's true. Like whenever we first started in EOS, we were definitely shooting from the hip. I think we both have great leadership skills in some areas, but we're massively lacking in some areas as well. And we put our team together like a paper mache, just like putting one person here and hoping it works out. And I think this is the right person to put here, and this is what I think your role should be. And when you implement something like EOS, you're almost saying like, okay, it's a new phase for my business. I'm stepping into a new stage of who I am as a leader and who my and what my business is. And there is definitely a level of imposter syndrome that we felt even with our own team. There was some pushback, but honestly, for the most part, man, like our people were starving for more structure. Our people were thirsty for more opportunities to improve, or they really wanted us to hold them accountable. You know, my natural disposition is to be so chill. Like I'm just a chill guy, you know, and that is how we led our team at the beginning, and they would mess things up. But at the end of the day, it's not their fault if they're messing things up. It's our fault for not setting the proper expectations and having the proper systems in place for them to succeed. And when we gave them that platform, which EOS helped us provide, that allowed them to have the proper structure and things in place to help them succeed. And that's allowed our team to have like the independence that I thought I was giving them. Like I thought by me being chill, I'm like, hey, I'm a cool boss. Like, you know, you guys do what you want to do, but they don't want that. And people don't want that. And that's actually a negative culture in your business. It's not a positive one. And adding some structure, but still having like that positive attitude, of course, I think benefited our company, and helped us overcome some of that imposter syndrome that we had initially.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it helped us become more confident as like leaders. And then we got to go through like this fun roller coaster of dividing our roles, because when Blake and I started this, we just were like both doing everything. And so I think that that helped our team because our team would always be like, we don't know which one of you to call for like this or for that. Kind of like Blake said, they were like starving for structure, and giving them that has helped us. And I think like personally has helped me become more confident as
And it makes our life better. I mean, we don't have to deal with like big blow up issues nearly as much anymore because things are taken care of for the most part, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I would love to switch gears here a little bit. So we got this 80 properties, and now you got into the boutique hotel space. Obviously, this is a big topic that we talk about in the show a lot. It's something that we talk about in the mastermind. Give us a story about how that happened, and where does that kind of fit in the long-term vision? Because your brand is called Cribs, right? So a boutique hotel and Cribs is kind of like, I think about the show always, the MTV show. I just love that show. Well, they're in the Cribs. But where are you guys seeing yourself? And then is the boutique hotel now, are you managing it? And is it still under the brand Cribs? Or give us a rundown of what the future looks
Well,
like.
it's own brand. It's branded separately. And we're lucky that we have amazing like a on-site management team there that I tell people the beautiful thing about the boutique hotel space operationally is we think about that from a management perspective way less than we think about like our individual short-term rentals because we have a team that's like on site seeing the property every single day. I'll add one thing too, like the meetup that we run has given us so many business opportunities. I mean, we network our asses off. I don't know if I can say that, but we network our asses off, and we are loud as hell in our marketplace, and we're always in people's faces, and that is what led us to the opportunity to do this deal, led us to the partnership that we have on it, and led us to like actually finding the deal. And so, you know, that has just been pivotal in our business. The boutique hotel itself, like I said, is branded separately. I call it a boutique hotel, or we call it a boutique hotel, but it's more of an experiential property is what we call it. So it's really cool. It's 14 cabins by the lake out here in Austin, or it's not in Austin, but it's just outside of Austin. And they were cabins that were being rented long-term, like as like long-term rentals. And so we acquired the property. It was a $1.8 million purchase price. And we renovated all the cabins, made them super cool, Instagrammable, Airbnb style, just like very fun, and built this incredible pool and added some additional amenities. You know, the first year was tough. We were definitely in the red, and we're now starting to see after a couple years in operations and all the cabins are done and the amenities are done that we're becoming like really profitable. And it's been a cool journey to see, like, you know, we hear people talking about it, and it's been fun like being actually in it, doing the dang thing. And now that it's running, man, like it's not that hard of a business to run. Like the startup is a ass kicker. The startup is an ass kicker. It is. But once it's stabilized and you have like that team in place, it's a good business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jeremy, what would you do the boutique hotel again, or what has been your experience? Because I love you sharing the moment of being in the red, right? I think there is a component of people when they're analyzing boutique hotels, there is this emphasis on the ones and the zeros. And again, we're investors, so that's definitely part of the game. And also, there is something to be said about holding a vision. So I was seeing a video of the guy from Rivian, the car company. They were $14 billion in debt, and they've never turned a profit, right? And so you think about that, and then you think about us when we buy properties, and we're like, oh, we got a cash flow from day one. So what was that mindset for you guys when it comes to like, okay, like were you expecting the red, or was it more unexpected, and then when it happened, how do you mentally handle that moment?
Yeah, I would say we were definitely expecting some red, probably not as much as we had. I would love to do another one. I'll say that first. The getting it up and running and off the ground was like mentally draining. Yeah, and a huge learning curve. So we took over, we closed on the property while there were long-term tenants in place at every cabin. And so we took over as their like landlord, expired all of their leases, had to evict some. One of them passed away. Like all these like issues that came up with getting the long-term tenants out. And then there were, just we ran into every issue you could imagine with from like the septic to the pool taking longer to we painted 14 cabins black in Texas where it's 100 degrees sometimes. And so we had
seasonal.
yeah, we had to upgrade all the ACs and things like that. So we just learned so much about how to start that. I think if we were to do it again or when we do it again, we've learned so much about like what not to do and how to do things differently that I think that it would be a much smoother process. But yeah, I mean, it's very cool looking back now, seeing how like everything led to where we are today. And the red, while it was scary, like,
Yeah, we're good now. We're good.
Yeah, I love that. So as we head towards the end of the show, I would love to switch gear and topic one more time. And where I want to take us to now is you guys are partner in life, you're partner in business as well. We have a lot of people in the mastermind, and I know a lot of people myself, they are also kind of partners in both life and business. And I know a lot of people that try to do it and they can't, right? And so how do you navigate partnership and how do you separate the two so that you guys are still, I mean, you're doing this for each other, for the life as well, right? And so like, how do you keep that into perspective? How do you keep yourself just keeping the two things separate and not being like, bring in work home or vice versa, right?
yeah. So I think it's really cool. We definitely bring work home. Like what works pretty much all the time.
We love.
But
We love.
yeah, we love it. And what's cool about it is like, you know, before this, before we were partners in business, one of us would have like a rough day at work and one of us would have a great day at work. And so then you get home at the end of the day and one of you is all pissed off and angry and one of you is like ready to go to dinner and have like a great night. And so we're pretty much always on the same page when like there's an issue that happens at work, right? Can kind of tackle it as a team and we kind of go through that little dip together. So I think that's really beautiful, but also because it's our baby, like it's our business, we have a very clear vision and it's the same vision because of both of our livelihoods. And so we kind of just take a team approach to everything. And then you'll laugh, but we also run our like relationship on EOS. And so we have like KPIs for our relationship and we have a weekly L10 for our relationship that I think also really, really benefits the business.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, once you find something that works, you might as well make it work everywhere, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would add to like our expectations, our goals, our mission, our priorities, for the most part, is all the same. We definitely have like little tiffs, little disagreements, but because what we want out of the business and what we want out of life is so aligned, it makes those disagreements easy. Like we both prioritize our relationship over the business, and I think that that's really important in a partnership. Because I think where I see a lot of partnerships fail is one person may prioritize one over the other, or they may prioritize the business over the relationship, and that's someone else's thing. That's not my thing to call anybody out on. But at the end of the day, like for us, I think the reason why we're so solid is because our priorities are the same in that regard. And even if he's upset at me or I'm upset at him about maybe we didn't respond to an email or something, I feel like that's a common one. And it at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like we talk about it and we bitch about it for 5 minutes and then we're over it, because we prioritize our relationship first. And yeah, man, like we tell people all the time, I don't know how we could do this I don't know how we could partner with someone else in this business, because it's been so incredible in so many ways, but it's also very difficult. There are so many difficult moments that we've had running this business together, and I don't know that I could have. I don't know that we would have been as nearly as successful if we weren't, partners in life before we started this business together.
No, I love that. I love that. So if people want to learn more about you guys, your brand, stay at your property, or at least take a look at what these cabins, are they still black or they're not black anymore?
But they're still black.
They are still black.
They're still black. So if you're going to see what
But
a bunch of black
AC's
covering-
no.
Yeah, that's great. In Texas, that's important. So where people can find out more about you, where can people follow you guys and see what you've done?
The website for the hotel is starlighthorizon.com. So it's called Starlight Horizon. We're both pretty big on socials. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is our main platforms. If you just search Blake Anthony Carter, I'm on there. And then
Jeremy Courtney
Jeremy Courtney on Instagram
and TikTok.
and TikTok.
I'm funny on TikTok.
That's right. We're trying to get big on TikTok.
Amazing. And so the last question we ask everybody, and I want a separate one from each one of you, is what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
Yeah, being patient with your owners, being patient with your guests, but like taking action, right? So, you know, you can have a guest that's just being a Karen that is crazy and just being patient with them, but also, you know, taking quick action. You want to be like, you know, kind of a duck and be like, you know, calm above the water, but like under the water, you're like working to get there. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say think doing everything you can to get in front of people's faces in whatever way possible. And then once you get someone as a client or customer, treating them like gold and honoring their commitment to your business and the utmost importance. So just being as loud as possible and then treating them incredibly. That has been what has served our business very well and has allowed us to keep a great reputation in our industry or in our area.
That's lovely. I don't think anybody has ever said what Jeremy said. The game of patience that's fascinating, and also being as loud as you can be. I think that's also a very fascinating approach, and so has been this entire conversation. So it's great to see you guys succeeding so much. It's great to see you guys having come from this crazy journey from Target, as I like to call it, to co-living, to everything else that you guys have built. And so I wish you guys all the success. I think this show was super useful. And for anybody listening, as you're growing, your team is starving for structure. That was a big takeaway for me. And so by creating that, you do them and yourself a favor. And so if you're hesitating because you don't feel up to par to be that kind of leader, I think both Blake and Jeremy have kind of shared that like that gets easier as well. And so just go out and build the business and create the structure that your team is starving for, and in a way also you are as well. And so I look forward to seeing you guys on the next trip. Thank you guys. Ciao.
Yeah.